the real reason you overthink trivial things. Welcome to Hidden Facts Academy. Why did I say that back then? Was that email I just sent worded weirdly? Their reply seemed a little short. Did I upset them somehow? Everyone has had experiences like these at some point. Even when nothing is seriously wrong, the same thoughts keep circling around and around in your head. Before you know it, 30 minutes or an hour has passed, and nothing has been resolved. This is not a sign of weak willpower or an overly nervous personality. It is a phenomenon caused by a specific mechanism built into the human brain. In this video, we will explain the mechanism behind rumination, the tendency to overthink trivial things. From the perspectives of neuroscience and psychology, why can't you stop it even when you try? Why do minor things tend to stick in your head more than major ones? We will also share concrete methods for breaking out of it. On this channel, we deliver knowledge like this from the world of trivia and psychology every time, so that you can come back and review it later. Go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Now let's get into the main topic. What is rumination? First, let's give this phenomenon a name. In psychology, the act of repeatedly turning the same thought over and over in your mind is called rumination. The word rumination comes from the behavior of cows, which swallow grass and then bring it back up to chew again. In the same way, we chew over things we have already experienced or felt again and again in our minds. Rumination has three defining characteristics. It is repetitive, it is self-directed, and it does not lead to resolution. Thinking over and over. I should have done it differently back then. Continuing to blame yourself, why am I so hopeless? Worrying endlessly about the future. What if the worst happens? All of these are states in which your thinking keeps circling the same place. It feels like you are thinking, but you are not moving forward. That is the essence of rumination. Why does the brain end up this way? So why does the brain fall into this kind of state? The key lies in a brain function called the default mode network, or DMN. The DMN is a network that activates when the brain is in a resting state, when it is not focused on any particular task, when you are spacing out, when you put down your phone, when you close your eyes in bed. The DMN is what the brain automatically sets in motion. During moments like these, the functions the DMN handles include reflecting on your past, imagining your future, inferring how others feel, and engaging in self-reflection. These are all extremely important functions and form the foundation of self-awareness and social ability. The problem arises when the DMN becomes overactivated. Research shows that during rumination, the DMN maintains a higher level of activity than usual. The brain thinks it has entered a resting mode, but inward-directed thinking begins to loop. The result is the state of endlessly turning over trivial things. Furthermore, the amygdala also becomes activated during rumination. The amygdala is sometimes called the brain's emotional alarm system. It responds when it detects fear, anxiety, or threat. When the DMN's overactivity combines with amygdala activation, a vicious cycle emerges in which the more you think, the more anxious you become. The reason your thoughts won't stop is not a matter of willpower. It is because the brain's circuitry is moving in that direction. Why trivial things tend to linger more? Here a question arises. Why do trivial things sometimes stick in your head more than major problems? This relates to a psychological phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, discovered by psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik in the 1920s. It is the phenomenon whereby people remember uncompleted tasks more readily than completed ones. It originated from an observation that restaurant waiters could remember orders only until the bill was paid. After payment, they forgot the details. Continuing to think about trivial things follows a similar principle. Unless you have a sense that something is resolved or finished, the brain keeps holding that problem as an incomplete task. The question, was that thing I said okay? Stays in your head because no answer emerges. The anxiety of, that person might be angry with me, doesn't fade because you can't confirm it. As long as the brain cannot judge a problem as resolved, it keeps rising back into consciousness. Moreover, major problems connect to the motivation to act, the feeling that something must be done. But trivial problems lack that level of urgency. So instead of taking action, the mind tries to process them through thought. Because they can't be solved through action, thinking keeps working in their place. This is another reason trivial things are hard to let go of. Why you can't stop even when you try. I know I'm overthinking, but I can't stop. This is something many people experience. Why can't you stop even when you try? The first reason is that you believe thinking will lead to a solution. In psychology, this is called a metacognitive belief. The belief that if I keep thinking carefully about this, an answer will eventually come, or if I analyze it thoroughly, I'll find a solution, is what prevents you from stopping the thought. As long as the brain believes that thinking leads to problem solving, there is no reason to stop the loop. Research shows that these metacognitive beliefs sustain and reinforce rumination. You keep thinking because you believe thinking will solve it, but it actually doesn't get solved. So you keep thinking even more. That is the structure of the vicious cycle. The second reason is that trying to suppress a thought produces the opposite effect. There is a famous experiment conducted by psychologist Daniel Wegner. People who were told, "Please do not think about a white bear," ended up thinking about white bears more frequently. This is known as the ironic process theory. The very act of becoming conscious of, "I'm going to stop thinking about this," activates that thought more strongly within the brain. So the more you think, "I need to stop thinking," the more the thoughts won't stop. This is not weak willpower. It is something that happens as a function of how the brain works. Methods for breaking out of rumination. So how can you break out of the rumination loop? Here are 3 approaches that research has shown to be effective. The first is to label your emotions. Rather than trying to stop thinking, name what you are feeling right now. I notice I'm feeling anxious right now. This is a feeling of regret. Research shows that simply putting emotions into words like this calms the activity of the amygdala, which handles emotional responses and makes it easier for the prefrontal cortex to regain control. Rather than trying to suppress the thought, observe it. That small difference becomes the first step toward breaking out of the loop. The second is to schedule a worry time. This is a technique used in psychotherapy. You designate a specific 15 to 20-minute window each day as the only time you are allowed to worry. When rumination begins at any other time, you consciously defer it. I'll think about that during worry time. By giving the brain the reassurance that there is time set aside to think about this, you can bring order to thoughts that would otherwise loop uncontrollably. It sounds simple, but it is a method whose effectiveness has been confirmed repeatedly in research. The third is to move your body. Light exercise, a walk, stretching. Research shows that moving your body promotes the release of endorphins in the brain, which reduces the cognitive load associated with rumination. In addition, activities like walking direct your attention outward, which makes it easier to shift the direction of thinking that had been turned inward. The idea is not, let's stop thinking, but rather, let's create a state in which I can direct my awareness towards something else. Finally, overthinking trivial things is not a matter of personality or weak willpower. The brain's default mode network becomes overactivated, and it continues to hold problems it judges as unresolved as incomplete tasks. On top of that, the brain's own mechanism, whereby trying to stop makes things worse, causes the loop of thought to form. The important thing is not to blame yourself. Criticizing yourself with "there I go again" when you notice your overthinking only deepens the rumination further. Simply holding the perspective of, "I notice my brain is looping right now," is enough to begin gradually changing things. If any part of today's content felt like it applied to you, let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so here so you don't miss the next video. See you in the next one.